Alright, so now here we go from a commercial standpoint, or even for personal use. Let's just say you're tired, whatever, you don't feel like messing around, or someone gives you a stack of knives that are all relatively similar. The angle is all determined by the distance from the edge to the underside of this rod. That determines the hypotenuse of your right angle. So normally I set up, if I'm doing a whole block, I'll set it so that the Sharpie doesn't quite come off the actual edge. I capture this height, and then I set it up over on the manual version, and then all I have to do is turn the belt grinder on. I run the blade to a burr, flip it, run the other side, reverse it, slow it way down, nip almost all the burr off that way. At that point the edge is okay, and this is a 125 micron diamond belt. I could just start jamming through a progression, but I don't really like the way belt finished edges are. I don't mind it for the rough work. In fact, it saves a ton of time if you're doing a big block, a couple block sets or whatever of relatively inexpensive cutlery, or even expensive cutlery. The cool thing about the diamond is it doesn't lay in so many scratches above the shoulder, so as opposed to like 120 grit blaze belt or any other fairly rough abrasive, beats the snot out of it. One of the really cool things about this widget though is obviously it can go to any angle you want, and if you want to lower this bar right on down to below the level of your belt grinder, you can do regrinds, primaries, you do all the cosmetic work that you might ever want to do, all with the same equipment. So anyway, what I normally do is I'll set the edge on here, and then I just quickly, after stealing the height measurement, bring it over to my manual version. Set that, plug on my micro bevel attachment, and then just micro bevel the very edge. I don't usually use an India stone for that. I usually use something like a silicon carbide waterstone or something of that nature, only because it causes less problems with recreating the burr or whatever. If it's super high vanadium steel, I'll come off that diamond belt, and that's running at a low speed, so I don't have to worry about the diamonds shedding carbon or whatever. And then over to here, I'll use an extra fine DMT plate or something similar, and not quite erase all the irregularities along the edge, and you wind up with a real toothy, it's a really high quality edge. It's almost as good as I can do freehand. If I only set up for one knife, it's slower. If I set up for 8 or 10 or 15, using this setup is quite a bit faster, and the edge quality really does not suffer at all. Now, even for doing, if you wanted to do the whole thing manually, this works really well. If you're tired, your neck hurts, whatever, you're not up for holding fine angle, and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of time, because almost always if you're regrinding an edge and you're not using a power tool to reset it, it takes longer to sharpen with the guide, because inevitably the angle is not consistent coming to you. Even if it was done reasonably well, you can compare your best freehand work and it's darn close, but almost always you will have to take a little more material off the belly, because there's almost always a little more wobble. Insignificant in terms of performance, cutting, all that stuff, but in general, these are what I've noticed. So this widget comes in real handy. Even if I don't use the guide, I can just take it right off of there, and this is the deck I use, and I can swing it over to here and just set it right on top of my water bath. There's notches in there so it sits just like my water bath does, a little higher, but everything works real well together, plays well together. And in no way does this cause me any problems if I want to go freehand. Everything is exactly the same. Alright man, thanks for watching.